Hi, Irene here. On this video, we're going to be learning how to create render elevations in Revit. And when I say rendered elevations, I do not mean photorealistic renderings. That's a different video for a different day. I mean those stylized elevations that show finishes and materials that interior designers use to communicate finishes selection to their clients. I've already done a couple videos on the topic, which you can see now. On this video, we're going to be focusing on accessorizing, how to add the final touches that will make your renderings pop against the competition. So let's get to it. All right, Tiny Irene on the bottom left. So this is the model that we have been working with on previous videos. On the first video, we did everything about the style, visibility, graphics, cleaning up the presentation of the elevation itself. And then on the previous video, we focused on creating custom materials to show the different finish selections that we have. So on this one, we're going to focus on accessorizing. And this is one of those things that really grinds my gears about Revit. When it comes to families, they are very hit or miss. So for example, here we have this faucet and here we have these lighting fixture. And they're not technically wrong, like it is showing accurately the general features of these elements. For example, it's showing me that the faucet is not a very tall faucet, and it's showing me that it has just one handle at the top instead of two handles on the sides. And I could use the materials like we did in the previous video to show whatever finish the faucet is. Same thing with this wall sconce here. It's showing me that it's a linear wall sconce and that it's kind of like yay high, so to speak. But they're lacking in detail, and I'm gonna spill the beans here. Usually on architectural render elevations, at this stage, what they would do is that if they're working with a specific faucet from a specific brand or a specific wall sconce, they would Photoshop that into a rendered elevation. But we can't really do that here, can we? You can use a feature from Revit called a decal, which you can find under the Insert tab, this little guy here. But I don't really like it because, just to show you here, I'm going to click on decal and I'm going to create a new decal. I'm going to call it new decal. That's perfectly fine. And now I'm going to choose, I don't know, just any object. So I'm going to select my mirror image and I'm going to put it here as a decal. What is the correct? You know what? Leave in the comments what's the correct pronunciation. So I'm going to click here and now I'm going to press it. Let's say I want it here. There you go. And there is my decal. And I think you can see what's the problem. The main issue here is that I can see this boundary and I can see the back of the image, and there's nothing I can really do to get rid of this border. Like, I've tried and it doesn't really let me. So unless you're working with an image that is a perfect square or rectangle, your decal is going to have this annoying border that breaks the illusion of what this object is supposed to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little workaround that I have. So to do that, we need to do a couple of things. First things first, I'm the realist. I'm going to open a 3D view because we're going to be modeling some geometry. So I'm going to come here to my 3D view and I'm going to use my section box to see inside a little bit better. All right, here is my bathroom. And see, here's my faucet. Like, it's not that bad if it's just like a Revit, drawing, but it doesn't look that hot on elevation. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to come here under architecture and I'm gonna create a model in place component. You could also do this as a family, and that gives you a little bit of freedom with inserting multiple times, but in this case I'm going to be using a model in place component to make things a little bit faster. So model in place, and this is gonna be, let's make it plumbing, just because I want to maintain my categories. So I'm basically going to redraw my faucet, and you're gonna see why. So I'm gonna select plumbing fixtures. Okay, I'm gonna call it faucet. All right. And now, first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my work plane. I'm gonna set it to be the top, pick a plane, and I'm gonna set it to be the top of my vanity. Great. And now I'm just gonna do a simple extrusion. Now, what you want here is you want to work with the general dimensions that this faucet would have in real life, only for the side that you're seeing. So let's say, based on what I see on this image here, 6 inches is perfectly fine. And then for my extrusion end, I'm gonna give it, let's say, 8 inches or 10 inches. Sure. It's better to have a little bit extra than missing. So set, there you go. Yeah, see? So I could make this a little bit smaller if I want to. Once I've created it, it's very easy to modify it. See? So I'm gonna say finish, and I'm gonna go back into my elevation, and I'm gonna move it to be in front of my actual faucet. So that's good enough. And at this point, what I can do is I can get rid of the actual faucet, which is what I'm gonna do here, or you could hide it in view. So what I'm gonna do in this case, I'm gonna be deleting it because I'm not using this view for anything else. If you're using this model for other construction drawings, just hide it in view. That's fine. So again, I'm just gonna delete it and finish, and now here's where the magic comes. So the best thing is, if you're working with a specific brand of faucet or lighting or whatever, you want to show that object in particular. And to do that, all you have to do is make sure that you find the right quality image. So for example, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say vanity faucet, and I'm gonna go on my image search. So for this trick in particular, you want to focus about 2 things. You want to make sure that the image that you will be using has no background elements. So I don't want to see walls or like vanity or whatever. I want something like this, just the faucet floating in the air. And you want to make sure that it's a front view of the faucet. This is the trickier part. Most often than not, these views are going to be kind of like 3/4. So you're gonna have to, do a little bit of searching. So here I'm just gonna type front. And this is the kind of images that we want to work with. As you can see, it's like front facing, white background. That's perfect. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna be saving down that image, because we're gonna do a little bit of image manipulation with it. At this stage, all that really matters is, again, you want that front face, you want that white or nothingness background, and then you want to make sure that it's like whatever format you're working with, so JPEG or whatever else. So let's say this is my image. I'm gonna right click, save image as. Pay attention that it's JPEG or PNG. So save, and I'm gonna minimize this, and here is my image. Right click, open with Photoshop. And basically what we need here for this little trick, we're gonna have 2 images. We're gonna have one image that is going to be used as our texture, as our appearance, and we're gonna have one image that is going to be our cutout, and that's gonna be fun. So basically what we need is, we need a version of this image that is black and white, showing where the faucet is versus what is empty space. And the way that we can do that is, I'm going to use my selection magic wand, and I'm gonna click on my white background. You don't necessarily need to use Photoshop for this. There's a ton of online apps and free software that you can use that does the same things as Photoshop, but for free. And everybody knows free is my favorite word. So in this case, I'm just going to select this background. You can play with tolerances and continuous settings to make sure that like your selection is whatever you want it to be. So now that I have my selection, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new layer. And basically the way that we want to do this is black where there will be nothing, so emptiness, and white where our faucet is. Perfect. Awesome. This is what we want. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to file save as and save it as a JPEG. There is my faucet, and this is going to be just a different name. You can name it whatever. Okay. Now, I want it to be a gold faucet. So another editing that I did off camera is I actually painted my faucet so it would be golden. A little bit of cheating, but that's definitely something that you can do. And if you're curious to see how I did that, just leave a comment and I'll put it on the list of videos to do. But now that I have this image of my faucet and my faucet cutout, now is where the magic happens. So on my Revit file, I'm going to go to Manage and Materials, and I'm going to create a new material called Faucet. Click here, and Identity, you are going to be Faucet. Gorgeous. Click on Image, and again, I already have it because I made it for this video. All right, here is my faucet painted in gold, so it will match the rest of my design. And again, as usual, I like to switch it to either a cube, canvas, or wall representation. In this case, I'm gonna do canvas. Yeah, that works better. Apply OK. And before I do any other modifications, I like to apply my material just to see how it's looking. So I'm gonna select this guy here, edit in place. And I'm going to select here and material. I'm going to call it faucet. Gorgeous. And there is my faucet. Awesome. We're making great progress. Now, the next thing that we need to do, we need to scale and position our faucet, whatever, size or dimension we want it to be. So we're going to go Manage. And again, we saw this in our previous video on custom materials. So here I'm going to move a little bit faster, so I'm going to speed up through some parts just because we've already done it several times. All right, so as you can see, I have moved it on my Y position, and I'm going to show you a little trick when you're working with these just simple box families. To change the position in Y. So instead of me having to go and switch my X position over and over, I can just expand my box, and that is going to allow me to show my material, and then I can just select it and move it back to where I initially wanted. So this is a little bit of a faster way to position your objects without having to do the X, accept, check, apply. It's just a little bit faster. It won't work so much with height because your object is kind of locked on a plane, but with the X position, it works great. So, okay, cool. We have a faucet that looks with a lot more detail than if it would just be a Revit geometry. But this doesn't look great at all. So this is where that custom image that we created comes in place, because if I go back to my material properties, there is one property in particular called Cutout. And what the Cutout property does is it basically reads your image in a black and white gradient, where black means that that part will be 100% transparent and white means that part will be 100% solid. And I can basically use this Cutout property to get rid of this background color that we have here, which is the issue that we had at the beginning with the mirror decal. I couldn't get rid of the background. You kind of can, but you're still gonna see the border. So let's check it here. So I'm gonna click here on my Cutout, As soon as I turn my cutout on, it will ask me for an image. This is a material property that can only work with an image file. And I'm going to choose the modified image that I created of my faucet. See? So, and you can already see here what's happening. So what's going to happen is that, it moved it. I need to I need to make sure that I have the same properties that I have here, both for scale and for position. I need to make sure that those positions and values are replicated on the cutouts. Apply. There we go. Doesn't that look so much better than the default faucet that comes with Revit? Now we're almost done here, because although this faucet looks fly as hell, we still have a problem, which is that boundary, those boundary lines, which is exactly the same issue that you would have with a decal. With a decal, even if you use the cutout property to get rid of the background, you still have that line that I tried several times to get rid of, and you cannot. But because this is a just model in place family, with this guy here, I can go to modify, go to my line work, and choose my invisible lines, and then click, click, click. Look at that. Doesn't that look gorgeous compared with this guy here? So this is my favorite technique when I'm doing rendered elevations, because it allows you to show like the actual product with all of its detail and all of its beauty and all of its depth. So it's kind of like we're photoshopping, but we're photoshopping directly into Revit. And now, because I already created this guy, all I have to do is copy and paste. So I find it a little bit easier when I work on the elevation. So Control C, Control V, I'm gonna put it here. Crap. Pick a new host. There you go. There you go. Great. Awesome. Beautiful. And again, I'm just gonna use my arrow key to push it to the back. It's not really gonna matter that much on this kind of view, because all that matters is the elevation. So when I come here, there is my faucet. And once again, I can come here, get rid of my previous faucet, and then I just need to expand this guy until I see my faucet and just move it into place, whatever that place is. And now same thing, line weight, and then hide, hide, hide. Isn't that super easy? I love this technique. All right, so let's do the same thing with this lighting fixture here. So I'm gonna go into my 3D view, and I'm going to model a new model in place component. Again, you could also use a family. This is entirely up to how often you're gonna be doing this. So I'm gonna do a model in place component. I am going to make it a lighting fixture, and I'm gonna call it wall sconce. Now I'm gonna set my work plane to be the wall over which it goes. You want to make sure that, again, same as with everything else, you get rid of the Revit one, whether it is hiding it in the view or deleting it. The reason is, like, even if right now it's hidden, when you do the cutout effect, what will happen is that you will be able to see the other Revit wall sconce behind it. So same thing, I have already selected the wall sconce that I want to use for this project. I saved the image and I created the cutout duplicate. So it's gonna be basically the same thing as the faucet. So I will be speeding up through some parts of the process. Alrighty, And just with this, you can see I can still select it and maybe move it a little bit higher if I want to. Just with this, you're already giving so much more flavor to your drawing than if you would just be working with Revit families. But this is where we're gonna push it even further, because one of the things that I really like about those rendered elevations versus your traditional construction drawing is when they add flavor to them. And by flavor I mean accessories. So it's like there's a picture somewhere, and there's like a flower vase, and there's one of those cute Aesop soap bottles. So now that you know you have this trick that you can use, you can create all of those accessories as simple as creating a box and applying the material. So let's see how we do that. I'm gonna start by bringing in a flower vase. So again, I'm gonna go into my 3D view because I wanna make them based, or you know what, I actually think it might be easier if I keep them against the wall, just because I'll have some more freedom to adjust them. So architecture, component, model in place. This one is going to be, we're gonna make it let's make it general, and we're gonna call it vase or vase. Oh my God, pronunciation do be hard. And I'm gonna create it against the wall. Again, pick plane to be my wall. There we go. Or actually, let me set it to be the back of my backsplash. Perfect. And now I'm gonna create my rectangle. It doesn't matter again how tall or how far it goes, because we're gonna modify that. You just need it to be further ahead than the wall sconce, and we're gonna see why in a second. So the reason that I picked my plane to be the wall instead of picking the vanity is because I'm gonna show you here. So if I try to change the height of my guy here, when I cut it, it's gonna be great, but then I'm pressing my arrow, I'm trying to move it down and it's not letting me. So this is one of the issues. When you pick a plane, you cannot move up and down on that plane. But because I choose my wall, I can come and, for example, do this, and then after I cut it, I can select it and move it down. So the plane that you pick to draw your geometry will significantly influence how easy it is to move it or change it or modify it in any way. So keep that into consideration when you are creating your geometry. Make sure that you're picking a plane that will make it easier to modify afterwards. So see, I can very easily move this guy, so I can position my vase whatever I want it to be. Yeah, I think that's a nice position. And now, same thing as before. Now, one thing that you're gonna notice is that you kind of have to be good at creating that cutout with Photoshop. I'm not great, I'm not pretending to be great. So you can spend a little bit more time with this, and that will definitely influence how good your image looks. Mine's look a little bit sad because I'm not great with Photoshop, and I'm not lying to anyone. Now, here's the other important thing when you're gonna pull out this trick. Who is in front of who is very important. So for example, when you work with annotation details in Revit, you are given this option where you can choose who's in the front, who's in the back. When you're actually modeling geometry, you don't really get that option. So the thickness or the depth of your object will determine who is in front of whom. So if I go here to my 3D view, see how my vase box is thicker, like deeper than my wall sconce? Well, look what's gonna happen if I push it behind it. So if I do that and I come back here, see, now the wall sconce is in front of my vase. So very, very important. The depth of your objects will determine who is in front of who. So you can use that thickness, that depth, to position your objects within the view. See? in front versus behind. So definitely keep that in mind. And we're gonna finish this exercise with creating those cute like Aesop bottles that are like for fancy people. Another thing that you can do is, because your model in place components are all of them instances, so to speak, I don't have to necessarily like redo this thing from scratch. I can just go and copy this element. So I can go Control C, Control V, and then just, let's say, like position it in exactly the same place or position it anywhere else. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna move it afterwards. There she is. And this is gonna be, because it's gonna be my soap bottle, it can be much smaller. I'm gonna move it a little bit thicker just so it's in front of my vase. And I'm gonna come back here. See, there she is. And I'm gonna create my material for my soap bottle. And again, because it's a model in place component, they are all instances. So you don't have to worry about changing the material of one is going to change the material of all of them. So once I have this, I can do same shenanigans that I did for everything else. I'm going to speed up through it. And there we have it. I have added my bottles of soap. I've added 2 of them just so it looks a little bit more like, you know, busy. You can do whatever you want here. And actually, it looks too busy. Delete. And then finally, I want to finish by bringing a piece of art just to see how that one would work out. This is going to be a generic component as well. Usually all of my accessories, I make them as generic components, just so I can turn them off while keeping my furniture. The gist of this trick is 3 things. One is to create a model in place component that is just a box in a specific plane. Number 2 is creating a custom material with a cutout following the same patterns. And then the real trick comes in using the line weight tool to make the lines of that box invisible, so all you're left out is the cutout. So I'm gonna call this wall art. In this case, you could use a decal, to be honest with you, but I just want to finish showing this specific way of doing it. So I'm going to use my appearance, same thing, come here, I have an image. In this case in particular, you don't necessarily need to use the cutout because the frame is going to be the boundaries of my shape. So you only need to do the cutout and hiding the lines when you're working with geometries that are not specifically like square rectangular shapes. So with this piece of art here is actually quite easy.
Actually super easy, barely an inconvenience.
And for my dimensions, again, this is supposed to be 18 by 24, but you have a little bit of extra on the sides, so keep that into consideration, like this white background here. So I'm gonna make it, let's say 18 plus 2 inches on each side, 22 for the width, 22. And the height is supposed to be 24, 26, 28. Let's make it 28. There you go. Done. Apply. Done. There you go. Beautiful.
Easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl.
Now you can actually use the eye for distance to just double check and see. It's about accurate. You don't necessarily need it to be 100% perfect because again, this is an accessory. But if you do, it just means it's a little bit more work, it's a little bit more annoying, but you know, isn't that the gist of our job? And now what I want to do to finish it up, just to add a little bit more flavor, a little bit more detail, is I want to be able to show geometrically this edge, this like frame that we have here. So there's two ways that you could do this, easy mode and hard mode. Easy mode is that you can simply draw it as an annotation detail. Hard mode is you can actually model that piece of geometry. I don't really care about that level of detail, for example, if I'm seeing it in a floor plan. So in this case, I'm going to make it as a annotation detail. So I can come here and on my symbolic lines, I'm going to pick the plane that is the front of my picture. And I am going to choose for my line type, let's do projection. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw here a square following whatever the outline is on the art. There you go, something kind of like that. I can move it around a little bit. There you go. See, then I can use my arrow keys to frame it, and there you go. See, so that is just adding that little extra level of detail that is going to make your drawing look so much more complex, so much more detailed, and then I can just move my art whatever I want it to be within my wall. And there you have it. There is my beautiful rendered elevation with accurate materials, with accurate products, and with accessories to zhuzh it up. So I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It would make my day. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video. Cheers!